Hey guys, my name is Mishti Patel, and I'm really excited to share with you guys a interview I did with Sarah Hamilton from the Ehlers-Danlos Society. Now, in this interview, we're going to be going over a little bit about Sarah's experiences living with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and also her roles in the society and the society's impact on others with Ehlers-Danlos. Now, a little bit about Ehlers-Danlos before we get into the interview. It is a group of inherited tissue disorders characterized by joint hypermobility, skin fragility, and other systemic abnormalities. Another quick thing before we get into the interview, if you're watching this on YouTube, the Ehlers-Danlos Society page should be linked in the description, and if it's on Spotify, it should also be in the description. I hope you guys enjoy. Hi Sarah, can you share your personal journey with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and how did you first notice something was different, and what impact has it had on your life, both personally and professionally?
Good question. Yeah, so I started to notice that things were a bit different from a really young age. I was quite a sickly child, like a lot of people are, kind of in and out of hospital with various different things, infections and things like that. But I started to dislocate my knees and dislocate my thumbs and things. But because my mum was the same, it was just a case of, well, you just put it back in place and carry on with what you're doing. So it became a kind of the norm. I also noticed well that if I got injured or if I had a cut or a scrape or something, that I would scar very badly. And I do recall kind of episodes I go to the doctor and it'd be, what's going on with this? This scar has come really unusual, and it'd be kind of again just kind of brushed aside. But things didn't get really bad until I was at university. Where I, like most people, kind of get overexcited, moved away from home, doing absolutely everything under the sun. So I was working, studying, I did gymnastics, I did cheerleading, and I was going out. So just doing lots and lots and lots. And then I just collapsed one day and couldn't get back up again. So after 3 weeks in hospital where they couldn't really work out what was wrong, that my blood pressure was rock bottom and my heart rate was really high, and they just kind of went, "Oh, you're anxious. I think you're just a little bit anxious, off you go." And that kept happening, and I kept getting the same answers over and over again. I went to work in America for a summer doing Camp America, and it happened there, and I got flown back. Um, and I got investigated for MS and kind of anything and everything that they could think of, and they still didn't have any answers. But I then got a bit of an answer when I had a bad car accident and I wasn't responding to physio very well, and I ended up getting torticollis when your neck locks. And I went to the hospital, and the physio there said, "Well, you're really, really hypermobile. You're really, really bendy. Um, and that's why you're not responding to physio properly, and that's why you're not healing properly and things." So that then kind of took me down a path of, well, could there be something wrong? And I actually started working for the UK charity of EDS without even knowing that hypermobility was linked to that. And then kind of went, "Oh, hang on a minute, this makes sense, this all adds up." And went to the doctor and said, "Do you think it could be this?" And for them as well, it kind of clicked into place, and they went, "Oh, yeah, that sounds like that could be what's going on." But then it took about another year to get diagnosed from there, just because of how it kind of works and how hard it is to get diagnosed and things.
Before you were officially diagnosed and you had all those symptoms, how did you cope with them? Was it just like, oh, like, get up, it's fine, like, or was it something where you were like very worried but you couldn't get the care you needed?
I think a combination of, as I got, when I was younger, it was kind of just get up and get on. And you'd almost kind of laugh and joke about it, like, "Oh, my knee just popped out of place, it was fine, I'll just carry on." As I got older, and especially when the fatigue hit, then I was like, something's clearly really wrong here, and I don't know what to do to make it better. So I, was going in and out of hospital. I missed pretty much my whole second year of university, which meant that I nearly failed. Um, and although I had doctor's notes to sign me off, it still didn't give an answer. So it was frustrating as well because of this whole, are you sure it's not in your head? Are you sure you're not just too busy? Are you sure you're not just too anxious? And it reminded me a little bit of, especially as a woman, oh, it's Victorian hysteria. You're just a hysterical woman, and there's not really anything going on. And then the healthcare professionals that did want to kind of investigate and find out more weren't getting answers either. And I could feel their frustration too. It kind of like, oh, we don't really know what's wrong. So it did cause worry. I know it caused my family worry as well because they couldn't, they didn't know what was going on either. And I'd have periods where I'd kind of get better and then it would all just happen again. This kind of rolling flares, as I now know, where it would kind of improve and then get worse and improve and get worse. So it was a frustrating scenario, and finding the right doctors is I think so important, and they are out there. It's just a case of trying to find them, and I think as well that when they don't know what's wrong, and as a doctor you get taught so much as well. It's kind of like, how many conditions can you know about? It's really difficult. So until you kind of go in and go, oh, maybe it's this, and they kind of go, oh, okay, again, everyone's at a bit of a loss as to what to do. And if you don't know what's wrong, you can't manage it. So the advice, for instance, if you've got fatigue with, say, ME or chronic fatigue syndrome, is resting, whereas I need to move around more to keep my joints strong, and that helps my fatigue more. So the symptom management is different, and therefore, if you don't have a diagnosis, you don't have the management in place.
So I want to ask, how has your emotional well-being kind of changed over time before you were diagnosed and after you were diagnosed? Was it kind of the same, or were you kind of relieved that you can now get the help that you needed?
Um, Sorry, say again.
No, you're good. How has your emotional well-being changed before you got diagnosed and then after you got diagnosed?
I think the change would be that I now have better understanding. So my emotional well-being before did cause me, I would become then overly anxious. So it was kind of the cycle of, they were saying I was anxious and I was like, yeah, I'm anxious, just don't know what's going on. And I was frustrated and I was upset. Once I got a diagnosis, there was validation of actually what I believed was going on with my body is what is actually, that there is something wrong and that there is something that can put a name to it. So the I still get frustrated, for instance, like if I'm having a bit of a flare up, it's frustrating, but there's not the anxiety and upset that there was before, because I know what's causing it. I have strategies in place to kind of help, and I know I can go to my doctor and say, like, oh, I've had a flare up with this, I need this medication again, or I need to go back to physio. So having those things in place means that my emotional well-being improved massively. And it also gave me the confidence to tell others what's going on, and therefore them to have better understanding and not have this kind of disbelief surrounding me, which again just heightened anxiety and worry. So definitely improved with diagnosis, definitely got a lot better.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those personal questions. I'm going to move on to some advocacy questions now. So, what originally inspired you to become an advocate for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome? And what does that advocacy mean to you, like, on a personal level? Like, how do you stay motivated in the face of challenges?
I think seeing the improvements over a period of time. So I've been working in EDS and HSD world for 10 years. And my role has kind of differed in kind of different positions that I've taken working there. But I've seen the improvement as I've gone along of how things have got better. It's not the case across the board. We know there are so many gaps. And I think through advocacy, there is the ability to help with that and to give others the tools to advocate for themselves and to step in and do those things for themselves. And it's a difficult one. It makes such a big difference, that kind of one speaking out to others. So I've done things in a capacity. I mean, advocacy is such a broad spectrum of what you can do. We have, especially at the society, we have people that will go and sit in an appointment with someone, or we have, or I've kind of done more of, where I've gone and spoken at places and done education. I've gone and educated benefits. the people who do benefits, so that when they're assessing people, they know what they're looking at and what's going on. But all of these things together are to help improve the journey and to improve management and acceptance and acknowledgement of EDS and HSD and get people to have a full understanding. So it's been a long journey, but it's hopefully continuing in the right direction as well. You know, continuing with research, continuing with education with professionals and things. We have an excellent ECHO program where healthcare professionals come and learn all about it. She did a presentation last night on advocacy and what you can do as an advocate to give someone the tools to continue to try and get them the best care that they're entitled to. So it's something that I hope continues to grow. It will continue to grow, something that we continue to work on. But there's still such big gaps. So it's kind of, I've seen this really positive journey and like seen the difference it's made, but there's still so much more that can be done. And I hope that continuing to work here at the Society hopefully you'll continue to make such a big difference and to also hone my own advocacy skills. It's such a big thing that needs to be developed and kind of grown upon, and then you find your kind of niche as well as to kind of the subject that you're able to help with the most, and then kind of extending that to a global scale as well, because it's so different country to country as well, which is difficult.
Yeah. A little bit more about the ECHO program. So there's always that kind of misconception about the syndrome where people are like, oh, it's just bendy skin. How bad can it be? So how does that program kind of help, or any other program that you guys hold at the Society? How does that help with kind of the understanding of Ehlers-Danlos and how it's not just a bendy skin disorder?
So it gives the intricacies of the condition and it helps to break down the misconceptions and the barriers that often go around it. Like you said, or you're just a bit bendy, or your skin's just a bit stretchy. It goes into, well, actually, let's look at the genetics behind it. Let's look at the markers behind it. So, you know, especially for the rare types, we can go into the kind of genetics and identify the genes and the diagnostic criteria, which are a lot, you know, tend to be almost more detailed because we've got the genetic markers. And then we can look at the hypermobile EDS and HSD, and we can say, look, here is a big list of symptoms that someone's going to have. And it's about education and opening people's eyes to it and opening that door and saying that little section that you learn, like, yes, technically someone is a bit bendy, they're hypermobile, but what else have they got going on? Because I can assure you that that's going to be one little problem compared to everything else. And having the real scenarios, having people that have it, having people that, you know, we can use as case studies and stuff, makes it really personable as well. It gives people the opportunity to see, like, oh, that person there who's got it, and this is their experience, and this is how it's affected them. And we also give them through ECHO the tools on how to manage and how to help these people, because it's all very well us educating them, but if we don't then give people the tools to go forward and help others, it's at a bit of a loss. Like, we can't, you know, because then they kind of go, well, I can tell someone I've got it, but what do I do? I want to help, I want to make a difference. And through ECHO, we're able to do that. So we have lots of kind of different ECHO programs that cover all those different stages. So you can do the first program and move on to the next and do the next and do the next, so that you can begin to develop and continue. And you also have the opportunity, which I really love about ECHO, where you get to speak with your peers and discuss kind of, you know, what's going on in your clinic and is there any advice that you have and how are things going and things like that. So you create this useful network of people that then reach out further and further, which means more and more people know about it and get a better understanding and kind of break down that misconception. And they have the ability when someone, you know, they come across someone and they say, oh no, they're just a bit bendy, to go, well, actually, no, I did this course and I found out all this really interesting information and here it is. And then that person goes, oh, okay. And so on and so forth. And we have this really positive snowball effect, which is really lovely to see.
That's wonderful to see. Besides, like, the advocacy work that you do in ECHO and kind of like the satisfaction that brings to you, what are some of the most rewarding experiences working with the Ehlers-Danlos Society for you personally?
Um, That's the hard one. There's been lots of really great opportunities. I really love our conferences, and meeting the community and getting to know all the people that, emailing back and forth and speaking back and forth and things online and things like that, but actually getting to be right there with everyone is really, really lovely. And it makes the community so much kind of closer and things as well. So I really enjoy having that, like, because we all work remote, we're all um predominantly at home all the time, so being able to go see everyone face to face, and the conferences are really busy. It's a really kind of intense time, but in the best way possible, where everyone gets together. And I really like the opportunity to just get involved in everything. We're not a kind of hierarchical workplace. Everyone's involved in everything. There's lots of projects going on. There's lots of things that we get involved in. So even though you have your kind of assigned role, as it were, like you would have in any job, if there is something and it's recognised that you've got a skill in that area, then you can actually get involved in it, which is a really, really lovely place to be. And it also means as well that the community get the best out of us, because we are using all the skills that we have from our lives to jump into anything and everything that we need. Um, and I think as well, the global outreach of the society is something that I found incredibly rewarding. That I speak to people from every corner of the world, and I find that really enriching and engaging. And we have a translation program in place now, so it feels really rewarding to be getting information out in someone's native language so that they can get the best care in their area, which feels really nice. And we hope to continue to develop that. It's something that, as well, there's so much to be done that it gives us the opportunity to strive towards it, which is really, really lovely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you guys have any research initiatives or any like initiatives that are kind of like international? Because I know you guys are based in the U.S. and the U.K., correct?
Yes, so staff-wise, we're US and UK, but our I know that we have kind of different elements to research. We fund research, but we also get lots of people that get in touch that are doing research, and then we're able to share. So that kind of comes in from every corner of the world as well. In terms of research that we conduct, that's often US or UK based, and we're hoping to grow that. But obviously, it's always difficult with research with the box ticking that you have to do and things. And I think one of the biggest things, something that we've actually just had go out, is our community survey. And that gives us the most fabulous opportunity to get back from the community what is it that you need, what is it that you want, so that we can always ensure that, because we can go and do all these big and wonderful research projects, but if it doesn't directly impact and help the people that we're meant to be helping, then it's kind of like, oh, what we're doing. So we always make sure that we're guided by what it is the community want and need, and to collate that feedback. So the research side of things, I mean, they always have like big, complicated projects going on that the rest of us are kind of like, oh, that's a lot. And it's always really interesting. And I'm always in awe of our research department, because it is so complicated and in depth. We have a biobank where they collect samples, and I know that's been incredibly important as well. And such a big, big operation to do. And again, these are all things that will continue to grow. So research it's a huge part of what we do, but we also make sure it's tapping into every corner, it's tapping into every type, it's tapping into all the symptoms and how people are affected, to keep with our core values and mission, and ensure that we're not kind of disappearing off somewhere that's kind of over here when we need to be over here. So it's a great kind of place to be. It has really great um information and things. We have a research page on our website, so I always encourage everyone to have a look on there, because it's got a really nice evaluation of kind of all the little things that are going on, and big things as well. Because otherwise it's like overwhelming. There's not much of it. Overwhelming in a good way, but overwhelming.
That's amazing. I love that it's community driven. I feel like that's very rare. I feel like they just kind of like go off on their own and just like research whatever. I think that's wonderful. Yeah. Besides that, what gives you hope for the future of Ehlers-Danlos advocacy? So, like, what changes would you like to see in the next few years, whether it be medical research or just societal understanding of the condition itself?
I think societal understanding would be incredibly important. I think breaking down those barriers and getting a deeper understanding, like you said, of kind of breaking that stereotype of just being a bit bendy or not having too many problems, and that through that comes better pathways for people to access a diagnosis and to access management. So that education, infiltrating throughout the globe and then allowing people to get the proper care and management that they need, I feel is, top of the list of the things that we can do. And that would help the community the most, for all those EDS and HSD patients to have the best possible experience. And to not, when checking our database and looking for a doctor in that area, for there always to be a result and not to be like, oh, I need to travel 5 states over, for instance, to try and find someone. Ideally, if we continue doing what we're doing and it goes as positively as it is at the minute, then hopefully then they look up their state and there's someone half an hour away. Perfect, I can go and see them. And just the more we do, the more hopefully that will happen. And hopefully we can get that globally as well as we continue to grow. I mean, it's been a decade and we've kind of gone from 1 to 2 staff members to nearly 40. So it's going in the right direction, and we hope, that it continues to do that. And that lots more information and education comes out, which is good. And we're all very passionate about it, which is nice as well. It's nice working somewhere where everyone's kind of driven by the same thing as well.
Yeah. On a personal, individual kind of viewpoint, how can someone be an advocate for this disease, even if they may not have it themselves?
That's a good question. I think understanding and validation are the biggest things in advocating for someone. So, say if you've got a friend that has EDS or HSD, and you're able to say to them, like, that must have been really hard for you, and they tell you about their, say, diagnostic journey. That validation is so important and gives them power as well to be like, oh, I really believe, and that's really important. But also to kind of take note, there's all the small things, and I say small things, but they're actually big things. If you are, say, in school with someone and you know that they have EDS or HSD and they struggle with their bag, can you offer to carry it for them and give them a hand? Can you say to the teacher, or with them, say to the teacher, oh, they can't take notes today, so I'm going to take notes and share them with them. And then going through life, is it that you go to an appointment with someone if you have the ability to do so? Not even necessarily to speak on their behalf, but to be support. And if you do have advocacy training, then you can sometimes speak on their behalf or give them the tools to advocate for themselves. So it's kind of something that throughout your whole life, you can go from doing these kind of seemingly small things that aren't actually small, they're big, to going through someone's whole life and just being there and speaking up for them, not necessarily speaking and telling everyone, if they don't want you to, but just being there and being like, whatever you need, I can be there for you. Whatever it is that you need in that instance, I can step forward and do it. And I think that validation is so powerful and important, especially when people have been disbelieved so much, that having that person that's got your back and opens that door instead of closing it just creates a much better support network.
Yeah. For people who have been, let's say, diagnosed, like newly diagnosed with EDS, would you have any advice to overcome the physical and like the mental obstacles that they may face post-diagnosis?
Absolutely. So in that instance, I'd always encourage to get in touch with us about where to go for management. And we have a helpline, we have our support groups and things, so kind of a dual aspect. So finding out where to go to get appropriate management, because that's the biggest thing. You need management in place, regardless of the type that you have. Management is needed, and the right kind of management, so we can help try and find the nearest person and give you the best advice in terms of who to get in touch with for that management. But then also support network, especially when you're dealing with a chronic illness, having people that genuinely understand. And that's something that our forums and our support groups are really grateful, because you meet people that are in similar positions, and they can be right at the beginning of their journey like you are, or they can be 20 years ahead of you and say, well, this is what I did and I found it really helpful. But also they can just sit and be with you, and sometimes that's all that needed, someone to just go like, forget it, I'm here. And for a lot of people, support groups are a bit overwhelming, so then we have the online forum, and you don't even need to take part, you can just have a scroll through, and you might have an obscure question that you think, oh, no one's ever asked that before. There's 130,000 people on that forum just for EDS and HSD. So we're like, someone's asked it before, and you can find the answers that you need. So it's a case of, you can just dig into all this information and really utilize it, because there's so much there. And if that's overwhelming, like I said, just give one of us a shout, and we're able to find you what you need and go, well, here you go, and take your time. And also a bit of kindness to yourself when you've just been diagnosed. Give yourself time to grieve as well. I think there's a bit of a grief process of kind of, have you gone through disbelief? What does it mean now? What does your life look like now? It comes with kind of positives and negatives, and then you can digest all of that, have support network in place, and then begin to get management in place and begin to help with symptoms, and also kind of tell others around you, kind of, if you want to, what's going on and how it's affected you.
All right, this will be the last closing question. So, kind of related to the other question about any advice you'd give to people who are newly diagnosed. If you could go back in time to when you first received your diagnosis, what advice would you specifically give your younger self knowing what you know right now?
Ooh, a very good question. Just breathe. I think that would be the piece of advice that I would give to myself. Just breathe and digest, because it's a lot to take on, and it's a lot to try and muddle through your head. I'd say go on official sites like ours, a society site. Try not to go on the deep dark web of Googling, because you come across a whole host of things that you think, oh God, is that going to happen? And um, it's not accurate, and it's not helpful in that situation, because it is overwhelming. So sticking to official sites where they've got proper signed off research is really important. And I think, yeah, just breathe and digest. Don't rush into everything, and also take the time as well to think, okay, I've got this diagnosis, what do I want next? And have a really good think about, what will I find helpful, so that you can advocate for yourself, so that the next time you go into an appointment, you go, I want to do this to help myself. Can you do that referral? Can you do that test? Can you give me that medication? So it gives you the opportunity to put the power back in your hands and go, right, now I've got this diagnosis, what can I do with it? How can I make things better for myself and get a control of everything again?
All right. That's all the questions I have. Is there anything that I missed that you would like to talk about?
Um, I don't think so. Just a case of, yeah, we're always here. If anybody needs anything, to reach out. Even if they're not diagnosed, we're here as well for the diagnostic journey, friends, family, carers, etc. Kind of anyone in the EDS and HSD world can come to us, and we'll be happy to help.
All right. With that, I want to really thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, and I feel like the viewers would really love this interview. Yeah, thank you so much.
Not a problem. Thank you.